So recently I had made a video about the series that I do not plan to finish. It was basically me ranting about why I didn't like the books well enough to continue the series. Those are kind of fun to make, but they feel really negative, so I wanted to also make a video on the series I do definitely plan on finishing. Series I have started, I like well enough that I am going to continue to the end. At least that's what I'm planning on right now. This list is going to contain series that are both finished and unfinished currently. So my plan is to finish them whether they're fully released or not, dependent on those authors finishing their series. Starting with The Wheel of Time. I think it's been almost a year since I read The Fires of Heaven, book 5 in this series. Part of the reason I have not continued yet is because I felt like I was behind on my in-depth character videos, and I didn't want to keep going when I hadn't made all of the ones I wanted to make. I think I'm going to not let that stop me because I don't want to base my reading off of this channel. This channel is supposed to be based off my reading, not the other way around. This series is very classic fantasy, very Lord of the Rings inspired. I enjoy all those elements. I like the magic, the character growth. The characterization is not perfect. I love the big epic feel, the questing, the characters who sometimes come together and then split off and each do their own thing, but you know they're eventually coming together again, somehow. I have very surprisingly not been spoiled to how this whole series ends. I'm sure it ends with the good guys beating the bad guys. I hope so. There was 1 or 2 relationships that got spoiled, but that's not why I'm reading the whole series, so that's okay. And I've heard very differing opinions on Brandon Sanderson being the one who finished for Robert Jordan. Imagine being a fan of this series and saying, this is one of the series that I'm definitely going to finish, and then the author passes away and you're just like, oh well. But then someone, mostly unknown still at the time, he's made a big name for himself now, comes along and finishes your favorite series. Some people are super happy and they say they can't even tell where Jordan left off and Sanderson started. Other people say he ruined it. That's the thing with opinions. Everyone gets their own. Because I'm to book 5, I have not yet reached what's known as the slog. I have a feeling, based on what I've heard or read online, that the slog mostly exists if you are really into it for the action. And because I really enjoyed books like Brizinger and Inheritance by Christopher Paolini, those are very bloated world-building, character-building books with not a ton of action. I feel like I'll be okay in the slog of The Wheel of Time. I don't read fantasy for the action, so we'll see. But since I'm only on book 5, I have no idea how long it's gonna take to get to the end. It's gonna be a while. There was also some news out about AI doing stuff with The Wheel of Time. I didn't finish watching Daniel Green's fantasy news about it yet, but it doesn't sound very positive for book fans. I reserve my opinion for now. The next series that I'm definitely finishing, I don't know if you would count it as a series, that is The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. So far I've read the Farseer trilogy and the Live Ship Traders trilogy, and I do plan on continuing. The next 3 books are on my wish list. I think it's the Tawny Man trilogy, but this is another just big, epic, open world. So many characters, so much going on here. I like the magic. Unlike The Wheel of Time, I really like the characterization in these books. These are ones where I read the Live Ship Traders, which is not the first trilogy, over a decade ago, maybe 2 decades ago, and I loved it, and I looked up what the rest of the books were about, and they didn't seem that interesting. And then now, as an older adult, going into them, I don't think I would have liked them when I was younger, but I liked them now. They get kind of heavy. Anyway, Realm of the Elderlings will eventually finish. So there is a trilogy that I thought was not finished, that apparently was. I made a short about it. And that's the Firemane Saga by Raymond E. Feist. I had read the first one because I was a Feist fan before getting on BookTube, Bookstagram, and I really enjoyed it. And I saw that there was a second one out, Queen of Storms. It looks beautiful. I love the red sails. It's just so pretty. It's very classically Feist. If you're a Feist fan, it's just another good series by him. I don't remember too much about it. Maybe a little tropey with the young boy getting some training and then a blacksmith who has to go off and do some other quest with his life. It's kind of fuzzy. I was reading Queen of Storms at the very beginning of COVID times. Not a lot going on in my life at that time. And then I recently found out that the third one's been out for a couple years and I just didn't know. Because I don't remember these first two very well, I'm going to have to reread them or find somebody who has a good plot summary online. If you know someone who does Feist plot summaries, let me know. And then Master of Furies wraps up this trilogy. And at some point I'm going to make time to finish this. I will. I wasn't planning on it. I was planning on rereading the Rift War saga by Raymond D. Feist this year. So now I have decisions to make. Next, the Powder Mage trilogy. I had seen this one going around, looked interesting. I found this first one in a little free library where you take a book, leave a book. And then this one started to get some popularity again because of the Broken Binding special editions. When I said how much I liked this first one, my husband immediately got online and searched for the nice hardcovers and he was like, those are way too expensive. It's fine. A soft cover is fine. The story within is the same. This one was different from the fantasy I normally read and I enjoyed that. I don't usually read things that are in the era of the world where there's gunpowder. I like the older style of fantasy, but I think it's good to break out of what you normally read sometimes because you discover new things that you never knew you liked. And I liked this one. I have a review and a character study up of this first one, so you can see what I liked and what I didn't like, but I liked it enough to keep going. Next. All right, this next one does not have all the books out yet. This is the Emily Wilde series. I loved Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I loved her Map of the Otherlands. Very scholarly, very cozy. They have the type of cover I like, if you watched my last video. But even though they're scholarly and cozy, they still have the adventure feel because Emily still has to go on quests, a journey, a quest. I love that in a story. I loved the characterization. I loved the relationships. And this author, I am not worried about whether the next book is going to ever come out or not. She put out this one only a year after the first one. So I don't know if the third will be as quick because she does write other things. Heather Fawcett, by the way. But when it comes out, I will buy it and I will finish it because I love them. The next one is also a series that is currently unfinished, but one that I am so not worried about. There's not even a hint of worry in my mind. I'm also only going to hold up one of them because they're so big, they're quite heavy. The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. The first book, The Way of Kings, is the first Brandon Sanderson book I ever read. I actually suggest people start there if they're into big epic fantasy because I think it's the best series that he has. For people who are a little intimidated by a large book and large series, there's plenty of other starting places in the Cosmere or just for Sanderson in general. But these have that classic fantasy feel, but in a very different setting. Sanderson likes to do things that are different and weird, and world building is one of the things that he is known for and does well, as well as his magic systems. His characterization is fine. Relationships are fine. Dialogue is fine. Prose, I actually appreciate the prose. A lot of people call it simple, easily accessible, but in a derogatory way instead of the positive way that easily accessible should be used. It's big epic fantasy with easy to read prose, so I think it could appeal to a bigger audience, which is not a bad thing. The book I'm holding up is Rhythm of War. I don't know if I feel like taking the time to reread this before the 5th book comes out this year, which it's going to, because Sanderson not only finishes what he starts, he posts percentage progress bars on his website, so you know how far along he is. I think that builds a lot of trust with his fans. So later this year, I will finish the Stormlight Archive, which I'm really looking forward to. I started this journey so long ago. I think when I started The Way of Kings, the first 3 were already out, and then I had to wait for this one, and then just like everyone else who's been waiting. Had to wait for number 5. And then if I'm going to say that I'm truly going to finish the Stormlight Archive, it's going to be a long time, because Sanderson is going to take like a 5 or 10 year break to work on other projects and then write the second 5-book series in the archive. So as long as nothing happens to Sanderson, I will plan on finishing those at some point in the future over the next decade or 2. And then I have one more. I have just started Songs of Chaos by Michael Miller. This is a young adult dragon book. Boy goes on a journey, dragon, magic, very reminiscent of Aragon and the Dragon Riders of Pern. The last time I talked about this book, I wasn't very far in yet, and the influences of Aragon and the Dragon Riders of Pern seemed a little heavy-handed, but I've gotten past that introduction section into where it's kind of veering into more of its own thing. The magic is its own thing. It takes you pretty quickly right into the action. There's really nasty baddies they have to fight, and in fighting, the boy and the dragon have to grow and train and work together. And I already have the other books, and right now I am enjoying it enough that I do plan on finishing them eventually. But as you can see from everything else I talked about, I have a lot to finish. I also have other books that are the beginnings of series. Part of them are part of my backlog that I'm trying to get through this year, and I don't know how many of them I want to start because I don't want to be in the middle of that many series. I mean, The Wheel of Time and The Realm of the Elderlings is going to take a long time. Some of these other series are just trilogies, and I could finish one up and then finish another one. I don't know what order I'll go in because I have so many going. I can kind of mood read and say, next, some Robert Jordan. Next, some Michael Miller. I also just got these, the first 2 books in the Bloodsworn saga by John Gwynne. I've read about 1 page of the first one, and then I stopped because I have too many other books going right now. And I'm kind of going to save these for closer to when the 3rd one comes out, so I don't have to wait. My son was very cute. He saw that big John Gwynne book, and I told him how many pages it had, and he said, "Wow, have you ever read one that big before?" And I will again. So which of these series have you read, or what are you in the middle of right now? And wish me luck, please. Happy reading. Bye.